Coach, this program is built around the concept of success never rests. On your worst day, be good. On your best day, be great. And on every other day, get better. So, Aaron, it's a pleasure to have you with me today. I appreciate the time. Look forward to getting to know you better. Really want to learn more about yourself and what makes you tick. We've known each other quite a while, but I love when I get to really dig in and find out what makes people tick. I believe I've known you, roughly about 10 or 11 years. It goes back to the recruitment of Andrea Gamble at McKinney North. I was an assistant there at the time. Then I became the head coach. You continued to follow my teams, which I appreciated. It was always good to see you in the gym. Also, we just got done talking. I coached a young lady, Cretia Small, that played for you when you were the head coach at Hill College. So we do have a little history on that. But what I've always known you're extremely driven. You're passionate about whatever you're doing. I follow you on social media. I know you do little individual challenges with yourself that you're very passionate about. And so those are the things that stand out the most to me, and, your people and relationship skills. So, first of all, I'd like to just start off with, could you tell me a little bit about, where you grew up and, how you feel these personality traits kind of developed or came about?
Was born in Greeley, Colorado, to a young parents, mom and dad. 2.5 years old, dad got killed in a car accident by a drunk driver on the 4th of July. A couple months later, my sister was diagnosed with mentally handicapped. She was a nonverbal. And then that following Christmas, my grandpa actually passed out with a cigarette in his hand and burned the house down, killed my grandma and grandpa. So it was at an early age. I had a bunch of, probably not aware of it, but adjustments and things which led my mom to pack up and move to Nebraska. She remarried, got adopted. He adopted me and my special needs sister. And it was an interesting start because I moved to essentially a farming community in Norfolk. Kind of self-taught myself basketball. Basketball was my out. Basketball was, hey, drop me off at the YMCA at 8 in the morning, pick me up at 4. Like, it was just, that's all I knew. And I'd be sitting there and just entertain myself, and actually kind of developed myself into a solid player. Probably thought I was a lot better than really what I was. Ended up my senior year being the Northeast Nebraska Player of the Year, and went off to junior college a little bit, played, went off to a Division I school after junior college. Was not a qualifier, didn't know the difference, got there, ended up being on the team, but more of a student assistant role. I was on scout team and would practice with them, but that's where I developed my my knack, and I knew I wanted to coach. Back then they didn't have coaching degrees, so I got my degree in mass communication. Felt like I did a good job at Southern Utah and went with an assistant who got the head job at a Division II in northern Minnesota called Bemidji State. Led the country in assist to turnovers my senior year, but was just more of a role player. I started, got my public relations degree, and wanted to, was back in Nebraska and really just wanted to coach. My college coach used to be a JUCO coach, so he reached out and said, hey, they've got a job in Kansas at a little JUCO called Allen County. So I called the guy and I said, it was a Monday night. I called him. I said, hey, I really want your assistant job. And he goes, are you sure? He goes, it's assistant men's basketball, but it's an admissions counselor and you're a residence hall director. You have to live in the dorms. So I said, I'll be there tomorrow. It's a 7-hour drive. Did him a rookie mistake. I dressed I was in a suit. I drove the 7 hours. It was 102 degrees when I got to Iola, Kansas. Got out, sweating bullets, and he goes, that's impressive that you're going to drive 7 hours for a job that pays $564 a month. I said, Coach, the great ones start at the bottom. So that's how I got into coaching. And I'm still thankful to Mike Hayes to this day. Got a call a little bit later after I had left and went to another JUCO that they wanted me to come back and be a head women's basketball coach at Allen County, and assistant athletic director at 27 years old. That's how I got into the women's game. And I really take pride in that roots that I had, but that start, and just, throughout my career, being able to, advance and make steps up. Had opportunities to be a head D1 coach at a couple smaller schools, and have chose to stay as an assistant. I think you really got to take pride in where your feet are, and that's something I've done every place I've been. But my personality traits, to answer your questions that were developed, was just it's two things: work hard, treat people right. That's why I've had opportunities. My last 3 jobs, I really didn't know the head coach that was offering me their spots. And actually could say at the last 4 jobs, all my Division I jobs that I've got are from either people recommending me or me getting on the phone with somebody and them saying, "Hey, you're my kind of person."
I find great pleasure in your story, because I was someone similar to yourself when it came to the coaching world. I never got a job that I did not pursue, that I did not get on the phone and call the person. My first job in Plano, I called the athletic director, Coach Kimbrough, once a week for months and months before he finally called me with a job. But circling back to, your roots and how you started, obviously you take great pride in the fact you kind of started from the bottom and worked your way up through to where you are now. What advice, could you give to, some young coaches as far as that? I feel a lot of young coaches want to start at the top.
Yeah, you can't.
I guess maybe what did you learn by starting at the bottom? I guess would be my question.
2 things: can't skip steps, and don't be afraid to pick up a broom. Don't be afraid to wash the laundry. Don't be afraid to do the little things, because the little things add up to the big things. I slept many a nights in my office early in my coaching career. I thought I did my best workouts. I used best workouts in the late evening, early morning. When I was living in the dorms, I said, "Hey, nothing's off limits, guys. We did some of the best workouts. Individual workouts were 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Kid couldn't sleep. I said, my phone's on 24/7. Don't be afraid to work. Don't be afraid to work. I heard Will Smith say it a couple of years ago. Don't be afraid to die on the treadmill. So when you get on the treadmill, either they're going to die or the other person's getting off first. Have that mentality. Some people call it take the stairs. There's a bunch of different analogies, but at the end of the day, it's all about work. Some people just work, but they don't work purposeful or efficient. And sometimes that's not, you got to have a method to what you're doing and how you operate. And don't be afraid when people don't get on your bus too. Don't be afraid. Okay. Your energy might not be for everybody. Your attitude and how you are, it might not be for everybody, but it's going to be for somebody. And in coaching, as a young person, don't be afraid of people telling you no. It only takes one yes. It's no different than in recruiting at this level. There might be a bunch of no's. All you need is one yes. And it's in sales. Anything you do, you can apply everything in coaching into real life, into the business world too.
Yeah, that's something I've, found in all these interviews that I've been doing, the last year and a half or so, is that the coaching world and what coaches are teaching athletes transfers right over into real life. No matter what field they go into, they've got to have the skills that high school coaches are teaching, college coaches are teaching. And then you reminded me of a real estate slogan we use, that you can't mistake activity for movement. Just
Right.
because you're active doesn't mean you're going anywhere. So, Coach, you spent the better part of the last 10 years coaching in Power 5 programs. I think you spent 3 years at TCU, the last 3 at LSU, and now you're at Penn State. These are all top level, respected teams in their leagues, and thus they demand a certain type of person to work there, which obviously you're that type of person. I want to dive into your personal culture, your personal brand a little bit. First, how would you define your personal culture, your personal brand?
It goes back to what I had said at the start of my brand is they always know that I'm going to work hard and that I'm always going to treat people right. I want the phone calls. I want basketball is a 4-year relationship on the college level. A lot of times, to me, it's a lifelong relationship. I want when you have a child or you're getting married, you get a job promotion, whatever it is, maybe you lost a loved one. I want to be involved. I want to be there. I want you to know that you can always count on me. There's a difference between being nice and being kind. I'm always going to be kind. I'm going to tell you tough love. I'm going to tell you what you need, what you maybe not necessarily want to hear sometimes. And that's always going to be coming back to, I'm always going to be authentic. I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to be authentic. And you're going to get that from me. And that's a guarantee. And that goes back to not everybody's going to like that. You're not going to be for everybody. You just got to be for one person. You just got to be. And I think a lot of that comes down to I'm loyal and I will never waver from my loyalty. And that's why I got no problem being an assistant. I'm a top assistant at arguably one of the top 10 athletic programs in the country. LSU is another one of them. TCU is a brand. Heck, some of my best moments were at Arkansas State. We won 47 games in 2 years, but we also changed a lot of lives. So I think the quote that I probably could take to this question is take people places they can't go by themselves. And I really, one of my best players and most enjoyable players I ever had is Andrea, a kid that played for you, because I made her uncomfortable, made her get out of her comfort zone. She still tells me today that my strength and conditioning workouts were harder than anything she's ever seen. Well, it made her be able to play 40 minutes and made her be able to get through a college career without any injuries. So there's important things, but it all ties in. Treat people right, respect them. And I think in COVID that, can take it to a whole nother level. When you're treating people right, you're helping their mental health too. You're helping the mental health tremendously. And it's a huge key in the development of college athletes and the development of our young generation too.
Yeah, I have a feeling having you as a assistant coach and that relationship meant a ton to kids during COVID. The way you're able to communicate and things. As far as your culture and brand goes, working hard, treating people right, and your loyalty, probably answered this question for me, but how do you feel that's, helped you be a sought after assistant, at the highest levels? Because to be honest, I haven't met that many guys like you in that industry that necessarily feels this way. So can you just speak a little bit how you feel that's helped you become obviously one of the most sought after assistants because you've been at these programs?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get labeled as just a recruiter, just as a skill developer, just as an X's and O's, just like they got all these different labels. I feel like I'm pretty rounded. I feel like, my international recruiting, my JUCO recruiting, my US recruiting helps me be, because recruiting at the end of the day is a huge part of it, but also I've been a head coach, maybe not on the highest level and it's only the JUCO level, but I've showed that I could take a 4-26 program at Hill College and then my last year be 27-5. That's a turnaround. That's about as big a turnaround as you're possibly going to find. So them are some of the added things in, but also I'm to the point now that head coaches can really trust me, knowing that they can step away for a day if they need to, or take care of business, or go do whatever they need to, knowing that the team's not going to drop, that they're going to still be able to achieve what their overall mission is as a head coach for their program, because that's the most important vision, is what the head coach wants.
Well, I'm a firm believer in, having great people and leaders around you. And, I've just got a feeling that all the head coaches that hire you see you as another head coach, not just an assistant. So,
Right.
and also your loyalty. I believe if I ask any head coach what their number one thing they're looking for in an assistant, they're going to say loyalty. So, I knew the answer to why they're looking for you. Thank you for explaining it to me. Let's talk about player development a little bit. When I first typed this out, I'd had, let's talk about skill development, but I feel it's more than that. It's player development. So I think part of your personal brand, is your ability to develop players. I know you've developed, I believe you work with the post at Penn State, and you might have worked with post at a lot of your stops, even though I have a feeling you're probably a guard when you played. But you've developed several, handfuls of All-Americans, first team All-Conference players, WNBA draftees. So, when it comes to player development, where do you start? Because, you're on your third stop in 2 to 3 years. So I know you've got a method of skill development when you get someplace. So could you go through that a little bit?
Yeah, I have a thing on my computer. It's actually on my Google Drive that's always called the program. It's my program. That you always have to, as a good assistant, you always have to have the program. And that's stuff that you want to do to help develop. Some of it's just motivational sayings, some of it's skill workouts, some of it's strength workouts, some of summer workouts. I put together a COVID workout for people to be able to do at their home. But a lot of my stuff I learned was early in my career, and I've just fine-tuned it. Doing the skill workouts in the middle of the night as a JUCO coach, not making a lot of money at Hill College. So I would do personal lessons, because at the junior college, you can level, you could do that, where I was just giving skill workouts to anywhere from 8-year-olds to high school kids. And so just got a kind of a menu is what I call it, with a bunch of stuff. But where I learned is probably in the last 4 to 5 years. I was fortunate when I was at Trinity Valley to have a first round draft pick in a Duke Bulldog. I went the number 12 pick to the New York Liberty. Is development. You said skill development, but it is player development. There's so much more to the physical side of things when you add mental and spiritual and emotional and all that, especially when you're on the women's side. So helping them know that the mental game, how to release when you're struggling, but also it's a mentality that I talk to them nonstop is don't let the last play affect the next play. You miss a shot, so what? There's nobody that's hitting all their shots. And a great shooter shoots 50%. So that means they're missing one of every 2. So you kind of just have to have a short-term memory a little bit, but you also have to be able to know that it's a game. Don't make it more difficult than it needs to be. Don't make it more difficult. Keep things simple. Rely on your fundamentals. Well, it's the same thing in the mental game. Rely on, don't sweat the small stuff. Just relax. Take a deep breath. Breathing exercises. There's so many things, but you can't have the same development plan for each kid. Every kid's different. Every kid, what kids tick on, some kids are auditory, some are visual. You got to know, you got to know if watching film and letting them see themselves is huge, or if you can just tell them. So there's a lot of things that you have to factor into it. But the number one thing is they got to know that you care about them, because they'll do anything for you. They can call you at 2 o'clock in the morning because they got in trouble. Well, it's the same 2 o'clock in the morning that they can call because something unfortunate happened. But they got to always know that you're available and that you're going to do what's best for them.
So how much do you feel is physical versus the mental when you go into skill development? I know both are huge to you. Is that individually based on what you feel the player needs, more mental or maybe more of the physical skill?
Yeah, recruiting comes into a facet there, because I used to think at Hill College that I could bring just an okay player and I could develop them and I could do this and that. That's not the case. The higher level you get, you got to be able to go get top level talent and then fine tune them. They can't be coming in with a, there's not, you don't take as many projects as what you call it, or you just can't do that. So when they get here, you find yourself a talented player, talented skill personnel, and then you work on the mental side, you work on the edge, and you show them through video. My MJ, all the really good ones, Diana Taurasi, they all have the mental edge, and that's in any sport. You just got to have the mental, and that's why you see a lot of places they have sports psychologists on staff, the bigger level you get, and mental conditioning coaches, and you see nutrition's a part. People got to understand nutrition's a big part of your mental health too. Your rest and recovery. I mean, there's so much that factors into being a successful pro athlete, much less a college athlete. I mean, LeBron spends $1.5 million a year just on his rest and recovery and his nutrition. So, not saying everybody's got that kind of money, but there's even the best. That's how they kind of approach the game.
Yes, I think people not paying attention to the body, the rest, recovery, and things is a huge part of maybe a lack of skill development, a lack of mental strength in times when it's needed. Because you're so good on social media platforms, Coach, been following you for years. You're so positive and things on it. It's also a part of your brand, I believe, is your social media presence. But through that, I know that your family is, very, very important to you. Often you're posting things about your family, probably as much as the basketball program and motivational things. And, you seem to make them a part of every program that you're a part of, which I think is very special. Could you just take a minute and talk about, how you balance basketball and your family?
Well, I think, something that is important is you always got to know what your why is, no matter what business you're in, profession. And I just happen to be in coaching, and my why is always going to be my family. And when you have a why and it's strong enough, you always want to protect it. And so my way of protecting it is involving them in what I do, because they know how much I'm passionate about it. My daughter comes with me, my 13-year-old, almost every day to our morning workouts right now, to the point where, she's one of the best volleyball players in her age around, and she's got her own goals and ambitions as going to be an 8th grader, but she's also the one that's filling up the water coolers and water bottles before anybody gets there. And that's just kind of how we operate. Is I try to involve them. I'm fortunate that Carolyn Keeger, the head coach here, and Nikki Fargus at LSU, my family's always around. When they have opportunities to go on road trips, they do it. My family is involved. Just happens to be my wife was my assistant at Hill College when our oldest was real young. It was around them, so that's all they've ever known. But they also know that they're kind of like they got a bunch of big sisters, and so it helps me in recruiting, because the kids I'm looking at, I always want them to be who my kids can look up to. If they can't do that, I don't care how good you are. I don't want you around. I don't want to be around you. I don't want to coach you, because I want my kids to have role models, because at the end of the day, I'm trying to build relationships.
I believe that's the first time I've ever heard that as something that coaches are looking for when they're watching summer basketball. I bet kids out there playing aren't thinking, is coach wondering if he can bring his kids around me? I think, and I think that's, if you can find kids like that, then you're doing well, right?
Yeah, my kids, use Andrea. My kids still talk to her all the time. I haven't had a team in my 18 years, guys or girls side, where I don't have at least one player that calls on either Father's Day or Mother's Day. And that's just, I want them to have, me being a white male coaching a female sport, predominantly minority athletes, I want them to know that they'll always have my trust and respect, and they'll have a male figure that they can always count on. I'm not trying to be anybody's dad. I just want to be somebody that they can count on, and always be there for advice, but also be there for support. Two different things.
So I know your son, I believe is it Calix?
Yep.
And I don't use the word suffers. I use the word lives with, lives with autism. And I know you're very open about it. I just wanted to see if you could, first talk about how this has changed you, first as a father, and a person. And then secondly, how it's changed your relationships as far as, being a coach and things.
Okay, so Calix is 8 years old on the autism spectrum. He's got developmental coordination disorder. He got some challenges. He's not different. I mean, he's not deficient. He's just different. What motivates him, where maybe athletics motivates me, that's not what motivates him. What motivates him is marching bands, music, drums, and he loves. Now he's got this passion for NASCAR race cars. So like, that's something that me and my wife are not familiar with, but that's what motivates him. That's what he enjoys. And so we're going to let him, pursue it or whatever he needs to do to be happy. But how he operates isn't going to be how the normal kid operates. His mind doesn't focus and operate like that. It's going 100 miles an hour. And I try to figure out, instead of sitting here trying to make him adjust to me, because, autistic kids have to have routine. They got to have a normalcy. Which makes it interesting, because we've moved so many times, is that we constantly are trying to figure out a smile for him. How do we get him to smile? Well, yesterday it was as simple as a mint milkshake. That's his favorite thing to do. My wife don't like mint milkshakes. I don't like mint milkshakes, but we always have mint ice cream in our freezer, because if that's something he likes, that's an easy, well, Calix, you got to do this if you want your mint milkshake. You just got to find ways to get him engaged. He doesn't like to be around a bunch of other kids, but then there's going to be moments where he does and he feels comfortable. I really feel, because I grew up with a special needs sister, that if they can just have one friend, it makes a world of difference. And obviously we just moved here, but we're in search of one friend. I've been fortunate in coaching at LSU. It was Faustine Aifuwa. She has an autistic son, an autistic brother. Here, Shay Hagens, her mom teaches special needs kids. So he ends up searching out, and he's got this knack for it. Them kids are amazing with him, to the point where eventually I'm going to have an organization, a charity that's going to be with basketball coaches and supporting autistic parents, being there kind of a support group. And it will be through some of my former players, some of the coaches I'm close with. So we do have an end game, a vision in mind. But I grew up, my dad, passing at an early age, me being adopted and stuff, kind of figuring out on my own. I set out, my kids would always have me present, but you always, as a you're going to have a boy, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to have the football playing, baseball throwing, tough kid. I don't have that. And that's okay, because I do have Calix, who teaches me lessons every day, makes me a better person, makes me a better dad, makes me better all the way across the board. And he's a big time motivator for me, because he might not be able to always provide for himself, but he'll be fine, because I'll make sure he's taken care of.
I know as coaches, we're often some of the most impatient people in the world. Has he taught you patience?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's and he still teaches me patience. We still have our, my struggles at times, but what he does is he teaches me that things are going to be okay when you don't think they're going to be okay. So sometimes you just got to let him be him, and let people stare, let people look, let people make comments, because really, probably a lot of the people that do that and they judge, they don't know the struggles of that day, or they don't know the struggles just in general, and more than likely we're not ever going to see them again anyways. But it still does. Having a special needs sister growing up, it was important for me to be there to support her, which that prepared me for Calix.
I appreciate you taking the time to share that. I have a niece that, she's been diagnosed as on the spectrum as well. And Don't know if it's the same, there's such a broad spectrum. So moving on to, I feel, and after talking to you these last 40 minutes, I even feel it more. You'd be successful, at any basketball program that you were to be an assistant at or lead. I think any business you'd start, you'd be very successful at, and, any organization in that matter. So, what do you feel, if you could drill down on one thing that's the key to your success personally as a leader, what would you drill that down to?
My foundation is always going to be being able to connect with others, being able to connect. I said it earlier, taking people places that they can't go themselves. And that, whether in whatever role that is, whatever profession that is in, you've got to be able to connect with others, because I heard it a while back, there's no hearse with a luggage rack. You're not judged when you go away with how much money you had. You're judged by how many lives you could touch, how many people you can help. So if you have a service mentality of wanting to serve and help others, it's funny how it comes back around and people want to help you and want to, it's almost a product of reciprocation is what it's called. And so it's huge. And so connect with others, tell others that you care. I've got a thing where I at least reach out to 3 people each day that maybe I don't talk to on a regular basis, letting them know I'm either thinking about them, asking if they need anything, but just more importantly, connecting with them. And it's been a benefit. It's helped me when I've made changes in my life of maybe taking a different job. And it is key. Connect with others. Let them know you care about them.
I think that's great. I love your take people places that they don't think they can go. That was always something I greatly enjoyed too. Strictly basketball question. You're obviously a great assistant, and you've been a great head coach. What do you feel makes a great assistant? Not just a good one, but a great assistant.
Don't be afraid to tell people the truth is huge. But I think in an assistant role, listen to understand, don't listen to respond. It's one of the things I've learned and I constantly still working on is too many times people are talking, and if you just really truly listen, you can gain so much. They always say the loudest person in the room doesn't always know the most. And so I've just learned, if it's through listening to people, watching videos, listening to people talk and picking up the phone and just asking questions. But as a leader and as a good assistant, great assistant, whatever it is, at the end of the day, it still comes down to working hard and treating people right, because that's what people need more than anything. And I think that's where a lot of coaches, a lot of business leaders go the wrong direction, is they think more about me and not we. And I think that gets them in trouble.
Yeah. I see a lot of business people, all relationships are transactional. They're not relationships. It's just transactional. So, so I think that was a great answer. Coach, I feel it's important, we find ways to leave ourselves vulnerable to our players to be an ultimate, leader. So, I feel they have to see the human side behind us. Sometimes we can just become a coach. We can become maybe someone they feel they can't approach. Obviously, with the success you've had, I could see that happening as well. So how do you leave yourself vulnerable to your players, the other assistant coaches that may be younger than you, that's looking up to you, so that you still have that important relationship that's needed? So it's not just all basketball skills, all those things.
Connect with them through experience, let them know, and kind of own up your mistakes. I've made plenty. And some of my mistakes that I've made have led me to better opportunities. Like when a door closes and all of a sudden something else opens, that it's okay, that it's the people that quit are the ones that don't make it. When you're close to quitting, that means something good's about to happen. There's just so many experiences I've owned 9 houses. I lived in 5 different states. My daughter, who's 13, 9 different houses, lives in 5 different states. Like, we've been places, we've seen experiences. There's not as much of a dramatic difference than living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana to State College, Pennsylvania. I'll put that against anything, but we're happy in both places because the big time is where you're at. It's not a place. And that's what I really, really sell is I can be happy and I can go anywhere. And so when people call, hey, do you want to take this head coaching job? Do you think you can win here? I can win anywhere. I can definitely win anywhere and I can be successful anywhere. So.
Great attitude. That's the way I like to feel about myself. We're going to finish up, Coach, with what I call the Big 12. I'm going to throw just 12 words at you. Just give me the first thing that comes to your mind.
Sounds good.
So, numero 1, offense.
Consistency.
1-3-1.
Awkward.
Full court press.
Aggressive.
Success.
Driven.
Defense.
Energy.
Motion.
Continuous.
Adversity.
Good.
Talent.
Traits.
Faith.
Adversity.
Relationships.
Lifeline.
Legacy.
Era.
And shooters.
Shoot.
I appreciate it, Coach. Man, after I visit with people like this, and I always want to stay in touch with them more. So I'll probably be reaching out to you. Hopefully, I'll be one of your 3 reach outs one of these days. I always had so much respect for you. I think you're one of the hardest workers out there that I've seen, and I've seen a lot of you guys come through the gyms and stuff. So, like I said, everything about Coach Kallhoff is success driven for me. So appreciate you coming on and taking time today. I know you're busy starting that new gig. So
Michael, I've been just overjoyed being on here with you. I've always thought the world of you, and I think it's a testimony to your work ethic too, and your ability to connect with people. I still remember taking the job at TCU and you reaching out. You're the first card I got. You're the first piece of mail I got in my new job. That's relationship driven, and that's why you can be successful doing whatever you do. And that to me is the kind of people I want to surround myself with. So I'm forever thankful for you.
Well, I appreciate you, man. And when you're here in Texas, picking out our players to take up north, give me a holler. I'll meet you at the gym, or we can go get some lunch and hang out, man.
Let's do it, brother. Hey, you take care, and appreciate you.
All right, you too, man. Appreciate you again. Thanks.